Department of Physical Education and Sports Sciences, and I'm delighted but also very humbled by the amount of people that have actually shown up for the official opening of the building today. Thank you very much for your time and your investment in attending. My job is to act as MC. That was so that I didn't talk at any great length. So all I do is introduce people and move things along. So it gives me great honour to welcome our first speaker, President of the University of Limerick, Professor John Barry. Thank you.
Cathaoirleach Limerick County Council, Minister Deanahan, public representatives, members of the governing authority, President Emeritus, colleagues, students, past and present, and friends. As President of the University of Limerick, it's a great pleasure for me to welcome you all to the campus today for this very special event. The building in which we now stand has had many lives. In 1973 it was established as the home of the National College of Physical Education to provide teacher education programs. In 1975 it became Thomond College of Education and would go on to deliver an array of high quality programs to thousands of young women and men over the next 16 years. The facility then became part of the University of Limerick in 1991 as the Department of Physical Education and Sports Sciences, or as we call it here, PESS. And today's PESS building is very different to its predecessor 40 years ago, and it's a testament to how far physical education and sports sciences have come in that time. The redevelopment of this site began in July of 2011 with funding granted by the Department of Education and Skills and the Higher Education Authority. And I want to thank them for their vision and trust. And this significant investment in the infrastructure of our campus will yield benefits to current and future generations of learners here at UL. I know that for the staff working in the building during the renovations it was quite a challenging time. It's probably an understatement. But at the same time, their excitement and sense of anticipation for the new building was obvious to all of us. This new PESS building is many things to many people. It is an outstanding learning facility for our students, offering state-of-the-art equipment and laboratories to ensure that our students experience the best education available in Ireland. The facilities include a 130-seat lecture theatre, a tutorial room, 4 new labs, a multi-purpose practical teaching area, staff and student changing rooms, a 35-seat computer suite, a student study area, and a lovely cafe at the main entrance. The building has also been designed to facilitate research, and it currently houses 35 PhD researchers engaged in a range of projects. The building also is a valuable community resource, available to various agencies for evening and weekend physical activity programs, sports training and competitions. And the PESS department collaborates with the community in delivering something called iPlay, a physical activity program for children with special needs, which they hope, and we hope, will bring great benefit to the children, young people and their families. In keeping with the pioneering spirit of this university and our continuous desire for excellence, we will soon launch the Physical Activity, Health, Lifestyle and Sports Institute, which aims to bring together the work of the PESS department with the sports department and the university arena. This collaboration between academic teaching, sports training and the community promises to bring us closer to our shared goal of strengthening the impact of our research and contributing to the economic, social and cultural life of Ireland. This redevelopment is the most recent addition to a campus of which I, as President of the University, am extraordinarily proud. We are often referred to as Ireland's sporting campus, and this is a reputation which has been well earned and that our sporting community here at UL richly deserve. And while I know that a lot of the people in the room this evening know the UL sports facilities better than most, and so to some extent I'm preaching to the converted, but with the constant activity, growth and improvements occurring on campus every day, I think it's worthwhile to pause and look at what we have actually achieved. So I want you to indulge me for a couple of minutes. One of the main job descriptors of the job of president seems to be to get up and start boasting. So I'm going to do a bit of boasting. And I want us to remember that UL is home to Ireland's first altitude training centre, the first Olympic-sized swimming pool which has a roof that works, and the only indoor powered rowing tank. Not the newest, not the biggest, Ireland's only indoor powered rowing tank. A facility that was paid for by the students of this university as their contribution to the enhancement of our infrastructure. Our new third generation all-weather pitches are the largest artificial grass development not in Ireland, in Europe. And our wonderful arena attracts more than 600,000 visitors each and every year. And so with all these firsts and the immensely talented staff who manage each of the programs and the facilities, it's not surprising that Ireland's high-performance swim team is based here at UL, and that we developed the first Masters in Sports Performance programme in Ireland. It should come as no surprise that we are home to Munster Rugby, that the national basketball teams choose to train here, and the national and international sprint athletic squads come here too for their training. We have a rich tradition in Gaelic games, producing some of the most celebrated GAA players in history, including the guy that I'm sitting beside up on this stage. But I think what I am most proud of, and what the people here are most proud of, is the fact that our facilities are open to all. An absolute beginner could be training side by side with an Olympic athlete. That is the defining characteristic of this university's sports environment, and it is what makes us truly Ireland's sporting campus. I want to take this opportunity to thank and to congratulate Professor Mary O'Sullivan as Dean of the Faculty of Education and Health Sciences. Mary is an early graduate of this institution. Dr. Anne MacPhail, who is the head of the department, head of the PESS department. Robert Reedy as Director of Buildings and Estates at the university, and Dave Mahidi as Director of Sport, and indeed all their colleagues throughout the campus, as well as the external members of the building and design team, who can each take a bow for making this evening's event a reality and ensuring we have updated this building to make it fit for purpose for the years to come. It's always a special pleasure for me to welcome the Minister for Arts, Heritage and Gaelic Affairs, Jimmy Deenahan TD, back to the campus, despite his huge number of commitments. Minister Deenan has been a great friend to this university, and I know I will speak for all of you in welcoming him to this event here today. So if you have interest in health, or physical activity, or sports, then you've come to the right place. And I want to thank you all for being with us for this event as we look forward with hope and high aspirations to the educational, research, sports and fitness dividends that this facility will yield for many years to come.
It's now my job to introduce Professor Mary O'Sullivan, who is the Dean of Education and Health Sciences, which is a faculty within which PESS resides as one of 6 departments. Professor Mary O'Sullivan, thank you.
Cathaoirleach, Mayor, Minister, members of Governing Authority, President, distinguished guests, particularly classmates of 75 and 76, and friends. As Dean of the Faculty of Education and Health Sciences, and indeed as a member of the class of 1976, it is indeed a very special pleasure and indeed an honour for me to welcome you to the formal opening of the refurbished PESS building. Indeed, according to David Fleming in his recent book on the history of the University of Limerick, there never was an official opening of this building. So 40 years later, we are celebrating the opening and the reopening of Physical Education and Sports Sciences building. You can see for yourself the wonderful refurbishment job that has been done. Buildings are important, but people with vision are the key to what has occurred here over the last 40 years and before. To borrow a phrase from my own president, we stand on the shoulders of giants. And I would like to acknowledge one particularly tonight. Captain Michael McDonagh. In 1968, the report of the Higher Education Authority highlighted the lack of teaching in new and emerging fields within secondary school curriculum. Physical education was one of those subjects. One of the key figures was Captain McDonagh. He was a former army officer, and at the time he was an inspector in the Department of Education. He had a vision for physical education in schools, and he had a vision for physical education, teacher education program. And he lobbied for that. And there were other early leaders, as in the first head in terms of Dr. Paul Robinson and the late Liam Dugdale. And there are staff from that era in the room today, and those who can't be with us today, and you should all be really proud of what you've done. So tonight, it is my privilege to introduce the Minister for Arts, Heritage and the Gaeltacht, Jimmy Deenahan TD. I'm absolutely delighted to welcome him back to the campus, and in particular to this building. It's close, Jimmy, on 40 years to the month when you first stepped into this building for the first time, and I hope in the next couple of hours that you will see the wonderful changes yourself since that time. Jimmy, I realise that it is an extremely busy time of the year for you, and we're absolutely thrilled that you could be with us this afternoon. Thank you for making the time to celebrate with us by officially opening the building. You will know, as the President alluded to, that over the months ministers are called upon to open many buildings and launch different initiatives. Some are more or less interesting and meaningful to the ministers, personally and or professionally. While today's opening of the refurbished PESS building is a very special event for UL, for the local community, for the alumni who are here today, and especially for the PESS students and staff, Jimmy, I hope it is also a very special and pleasurable event for you. I hope the time you have here this evening brings back many fond memories of your history in the building, and you have the opportunity to meet and chat with your classmates, some of whom I suspect you have not seen in a very, very long time. For those of you less familiar with the minister's biography, let me note that he was indeed in the first cohort who enrolled in what was then the National College of Physical Education. He and his 12 classmates began their 4-year teacher education programme in St Mary's College in Strawberry Hill in London in 1971, and then spent more than 2 years here from Easter 1973 completing his programme. Jimmy would have spent a number of hours in this building attending lectures, probably some more hours in the adjacent pitches training, and probably less hours in the basement of Plassey House, which was the NIHE and the NCPE library in those early times. By 1973, Jimmy was a well-known GAA and Kerry footballer, having played also on the NCPE college football with the likes of Brian Mullins and Fran Ryder. A lot of his time, I suspect, was devoted to training and playing with various Kerry football teams in the spring and the summer of 1973, 40 years ago. While still a minor in 1973, he had broken into the Kerry football senior team. He had won a national football medal with Kerry. In the summer of that year, 40 years ago, he won his second Munster Under-21 medal, and in the fall he won his first All-Ireland Under-21 medal. While politics and concerns of the state are Minister Dinahan's life today. 40 years ago, sport, and GAA in particular, was his life, with some time eked out for his studies as a PE and post-primary school teacher. Before he began his career as a teacher in 1975 in Tarbert Comprehensive School, he won an All-Ireland senior medal, defeating Dublin, Brian, and Heffo's Army. In 1975, the young Jimmy Dinahan became a teacher in Kerry, and 12 years later was appointed to the Dáil. Throughout his career, Minister Dinahan has been an absolutely enthusiastic supporter of sport for all, health and healthy lifestyles, and an advocate for sport and physical education in schools. He's held several posts of responsibility for sport and physical education. As far long ago as 2001, he became the party spokesman for sport for Fine Gael. In 2002, he was appointed Fine Gael spokesperson for tourism, culture and sport, and held that portfolio for 5 years until 2007, and took that portfolio again in 2010 until the re-election. During those years, Jimmy played a key role in formulating the Fine Gael policy and position on sport and physical activity and on physical education. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Minister Dinahan and alumni to address you to officially open the building.
Thank you very much, and I'd like to acknowledge the Mayor of Limerick here, Jerry McLaughlin, a very good friend of mine for some time, President Don Barry, Professor Mary O'Sullivan. There's a very nice ring to that, I must say. We used to refer to her as red-haired Mary, Dr. McFall. And I think a very special woman up here in front deserves to be recognised, perhaps the greatest athlete that this country ever produced, Sonia O'Sullivan. And especially my former colleagues from 1973, from both first and second year of that time. And it's great to see so many of you here this evening, looking so well. Maybe the hair has changed a bit, for the men anyway. Some may have lost a bit of it. But the girls certainly look as good as you were. You were there that time. So it's great to see so many of you here. And I was just checking actually how many of that cohort has passed on, and I think just Pat Fitzpatrick at that particular time. So it's great that we're all still enjoying life, and obviously as PE teachers we even got more of a reason to enjoy life, because I think we all made a very good decision back then to become PE teachers, even if we didn't stay at it all our lives. So it's great to be here with you this evening, and when Mary asked me if I would do this, I was just delighted to say I would, because obviously it's very special to all of us. And some of you may not know where we came from, and I'm delighted to see so many of my class here, of the boys. There were 12 of us. I think 11 will be here this evening. Tom O'Donoghue is in Australia, so he couldn't make it. But we started in Strawberry Hill in 1971 in September. At the same time, a number of girls started in Sign Hill and Lane. So then we were all brought together in September of 1972 in Strawberry Hill. Then we were brought back to the Crescent actually in early 73. At the same time, I would say for the first time ever, and maybe since, the whole cohort was starting down below in the Brandon Hotel in Tralee. I would say many of you are here. You were probably the only students ever to start your third level education in a hotel. So we were all brought together here then in March of 73. And I must say it worked very well. And there was great collegiality and friendship between us when we were here. And there was a great atmosphere here as well. And this whole building here at the time, it was quite modern actually. It was a kind of an architectural dream rather than something that was designed by, I suppose, a sports architect. But certainly we did have great times here. And Could I just mention one thing in passing? Actually, on the way up today, I dropped into Buckley's. There was a man called Bobby Buckley, and coincidentally he passed away, and he was the CEO in Cork, so I just dropped in to his family today. And Bobby was very instrumental actually in arranging for the first year at the time to go to Tralee, and then he became CEO down in Cork for years and made a huge contribution to education in this country. So it's a coincidence really that this should have happened. Just could I say as well that Mike McDonough, I hope he's here, because it was really his vision that started physical education in this country more than anybody else. And I know that because I've done some research in it, especially the Department of Education papers and so on. And Mike McDonough really was the visionary. Captain McDonough, when he was in the army, he was a great promoter of physical fitness and the value of it at that particular time. And I'm delighted, Mary, that you mentioned him and referred to him, because he deserves that. Here this evening as well, there are a number, and I see you in the audience, and it's always very dangerous to name names, as I've found out sometimes in the past. But just to name some of our lecturers, the people who were here, that really helped to make this place at that particular time. And I see Anne Sweeney down there, over here on my left, and I remember Anne well. I remember one incident, and particularly well, just one. We had to do a dance collectively, all of us guys, 12 guys. We weren't great dancers or something like that. So anyway, we decided we'd stage a bank robbery. And I was just thinking about this, and the bank manager was a man called Tom Conway, down there in the audience. I think Tom came out injured out of the whole experience. So it's great to see you here, Anne, and you've made a great contribution to dance. And over there nearer is Dave Weldrick, and it's fair to say that Dave introduced new training methods to sport in this country. He introduced the concept of the small-sided game, the shuttle run, all drills in Gaelic football, making them very much, I suppose, connected to the actual game on the field, and also emphasising, I think, the use of both sides of your body. I remember well, left and right, and always reminded us of one thing which I've always remembered, that your brain is the most important organ in your body, so use it, especially as you get older. But Dave, just look, to thank you again on behalf of all of us here that experienced your coaching and your training, because you really made a huge contribution to all of our development, but also to sport in this country. And I think it's not maybe fully recognised all the time. So Dave, thank you very much again for that. And Tom Power is here as well. Tom Power was a great educationalist at that time. Dermot Leonard, I understand, is here. Garrod O'Cruleek, and also PJ Smith is here. PJ was another great innovator as well. And just up here in the front, I suppose, Dave Mahidi. Now, Don, which is part of my script here that I'll give you later, there's a huge description of the new sports facilities here. But certainly, it's fair to say that Dave Mahidi was very instrumental in planning and funding and identifying where the resources could be got for the arena and for all the other great facilities, the grass facility that we have here, which is one of the largest in Europe. So Dave, I think it's very important just to recognise that. Great to see you here. I suppose, when you're looking at, actually I did spend a bit of time in the library, Mary. But I picked up a book down in the library one time, and it has always influenced me in life. It was by John Kenneth Galbraith, or Galbraith, whatever you want to call him. He was an economist, but he published a book in 1958 called The Affluent Society. And he predicted exactly what was going to happen afterwards. That people would have more leisure time, that the working week would be reduced, that society would become more mechanised, so there'd be less physical labour involved in the workplace, and certainly that we would be using the motor car more. He predicted even future television and so on. So he predicted exactly what happened afterwards. And he predicted then that we would face an obesity issue. And it was into that kind of vision then that the likes of Captain MacDonald at that particular time and John Keane really saw the need of a college to produce physical education teachers in this country, because up until then people had to go to St. Joseph's in Belfast or to Strawberry Hill or to other colleges outside of Ireland. So this was visionary at that time. And if you look back at that particular time, there were very few physical education teachers in any post-primary school in the country. And now, in many of the schools, we have 2 or 3 physical education teachers. And certainly physical education is valued. What I would say though, because of the pressure on students for the points to achieve, to get into university, to get high grades, that it's inclined to be compromised to some extent. And also, there are a lot more subjects now than what were there back then. And there's pressure on by parents most of the time and from the pupils themselves to do more languages. ICT is very important now, business subjects, and right across the spectrum, whereas that time it was very much based in the humanities. So there's more pressure now in time in schools for physical education. There's no doubt about it. But it's more important than ever. And the visionaries back then that established the college, the National College of Physical Education, certainly paved the way for what we have now. And I was asking Mary today, and I was saying how many physical education teachers probably were qualified through the NCP, then Thomond College, now UL. She maybe estimated around 1,500. So maybe even a little bit more than that. But they have gone out and they have influenced Irish society in various ways. And all of you here, we've all made our contribution in some way over that period of time. And I think it's very important that we should just recognise that here this evening and celebrate it as well later on. And just I suppose the case for physical education is now more compelling than ever. Because, as you know, recent studies would have shown that 1 out of every 4 children now is either obese or overweight. There was a study recently done actually in children under 3 years, and 1 in 5 is either obese or overweight. I won't go back to the adult population. The recent actually statistic for all of us to hear is that 61% of Irish adults now are either overweight or obese. So the case for physical education is now more compelling than ever and very important for the future of Ireland Inc. and for our society. So that's why what you're doing here is really very, very important. In the new junior cert, I know that there's provision in it now where physical education will be an assessed module in a few different areas, and that's certainly a start, and hopefully that can go on to Leaving Cert in time. Just could I say as well, the connection between here and now the broader sporting organisations is certainly a very positive one. What really brought it on to me some years ago, there was a very good friend of mine who was playing with Munster at the time, Federico Pucciarelli, he was a prop, and he's from Argentina, but he continuously reminded me that this was one of the best facilities in the world, what was happening here, the facilities here. So that really struck me because he had played in Italy and in France and England, and when he came here to play with Munster, he felt that this was one of the reasons why Munster was so successful actually, and continue to be, and no doubt will come back again. And also you're reaching out to the various football teams, hurling teams in the region as well, and also internationally. I'm sure you, Sonny, you have benefited from here as well in the past. And it has made, apart from producing physical education teachers and sports scientists who've gone on and led the way in sports management and in other areas, certainly that connection with sport in this country is very, very important. And I was just delighted to hear Don saying that you have bigger plans as regards designating an institute and so on, and that's very important. Actually, when the debate was on about the National Institute for Sport, I really pushed very hard that it should be done here in Limerick, and it probably should have been at that time. It's now up in Blanchardstown, as you know, but this should be the real centre for excellence in sport. And I would advise any of you, actually, if you get a chance afterwards, just to have a look through the premises here, the various facilities, the biomechanics research unit, for example, with Dr. Kinney there and Dr. Carl is certainly very, very impressive. And also the RMS, that whole system is the only one of its type, I understand, certainly in the country, maybe even in the world. So really, we're at the cutting edge of technology here. So it has come on so much since the time we were here 40 years ago. And just as regards the campus in general, when you drive in here, you get a sense of being in someplace different. There's no campus that I've ever gone into, certainly in this country or even abroad, that would strike you when you come in. You know you're in a special place. So I suppose that's another reason why we should be also, I suppose, glad really and proud of the fact that we were some of the first people that were in here. And just to say to Don, and I saw John O'Connor down there, I don't know if he's still in the house or not, and the vision of Ed Welch, that a large amount of the funding that was got for the arena was all got from private sources as well and through philanthropy. So this is a great success story, and we're here tonight to celebrate that. And just in conclusion, I'd like to say that for me it's very special to be here this evening. I became Minister for the Arts, Heritage and Innovative. Maybe I thought I would have liked to have got that chance in sport. At my stage in politics, I'm, like most of you know, would be top of your cycle, you know. We're all coming to the end of our careers in whatever way, and obviously would have achieved in our careers, but certainly getting this opportunity was very important. But I've kept that connection with the arts, and I'm delighted actually there's one of our members from that time here who has worked with me very closely in the arts, and that's Mary Noonan down there. And we're doing a special programme in the arts and education, and we drew up a chapter between education, both the Department of Education and the Arts, which couldn't be achieved forever before. So Mary is very much part of that, and delighted to see you here this evening, Mary, and thanks very much for your help in that respect. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's great to see you here. You've been a very, very attentive audience to all of my colleagues here over those 2 years, just to say how good it is to be amongst you. I was supposed to go to Brussels this evening, but I decided, for pure sentimental reasons, that I will hang around. And now that I saw my friend here, Jerry McLaughlin, coming in, sure, Jerry will probably hang around as well. Jerry is a great dancer, you know. So it should be a great evening anyway, and look, thank you all very much for your attention, and it's an evening to celebrate and to renew old acquaintances as well, which I must say would have been very positive for everyone here. So thank you very much. Thank you.